shouldn't remember her laugh the way I do. It wasn't loud, not the kind that turned heads, but quiet, almost like she was afraid someone else might hear. And yet, when she said it, "You're the only one who makes me laugh," I felt something shift inside me that I still can't put back. It started the afternoon I went to help fix the leaky faucet in her kitchen. My mom had asked me to, said her friend didn't want to call a plumber for something small. I didn't know what to expect. I barely remembered her from years ago, just a face at the edge of childhood birthdays and barbecues. When she opened the door, though, I froze. She wasn't how I remembered. She was sharper in the way time sharpens a person, a presence that carried itself without needing to be explained. Her hair fell loose, brushing against her shoulders, and she wore a simple blouse, sleeves rolled to the elbows. There was nothing flashy about her, but the way she leaned against the doorway, a little tired, a little amused, made me feel too aware of myself. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice steady but softer than I expected. "Your mom said you're good with these things." I shrugged, stepping inside. "I can try." The kitchen smelled faintly of lemon cleaner, sunlight cutting across the counter, catching the edge of a half-finished mug of coffee. I set my tools down, knelt by the sink and tried to focus, but she stayed there, leaning against the counter, watching me. Not intrusively, just there. "So," she said after a while, "what are you doing these days? Still studying?" Her voice was casual, but I heard something underneath it, like she was testing the air between us. "Yeah, just finished the semester," I muttered, tightening a wrench. The pipe groaned, then held. "Feels like I should be further along, though." She tilted her head. "You're young. You've got time." The way she said it, not dismissive, not patronizing, made me look up. Her eyes held mine longer than they needed to, and I felt a heat crawl up my neck. I ducked back down, pretending to check the pipe again. Silence stretched. Then she laughed. A low, sudden sound, as if she hadn't planned it. I glanced up. "What?" She shook her head, smiling to herself. "Nothing. Just, you're the only one who makes me laugh these days. And I don't even know why." I didn't know either, but I knew the way she said it lodged itself under my skin. The job took longer than it should have. My hands weren't steady, and my thoughts kept drifting back to her. The way she leaned against the counter, her fingers wrapped around that cooling mug of coffee, her lips curved in a half-smile that wasn't meant for me but lingered like it was. When I finally finished, I stood, wiping my hands on a rag. "Should be good now." She stepped closer, testing the faucet, and for a moment her arm brushed mine. Just that, skin against skin, barely there, but it sent a spark running up my arm like static that wouldn't fade. She pulled her hand back quickly, as if she'd felt it too. For the first time all afternoon, she looked uncertain, almost nervous. "Thank you," she murmured. I nodded, but neither of us moved. The kitchen was too quiet now. The dripping stopped, leaving only the sound of her breath, close enough to hear. Then she said, almost under her breath, "You shouldn't look at me like that." And that was when I realized I already was. I couldn't get her words out of my head. "You shouldn't look at me like that." They hung between us, heavy, like something neither of us was supposed to admit existed. She cleared her throat, pulled her hand back, and stepped away as if the extra distance would erase what had just happened. I pretended to gather my tools, but my pulse thudded in my ears. The truth was, this moment felt dangerous, not just because she was older, not just because she was my mom's closest friend. It was the way her eyes softened when she thought no one noticed. The way her smile carried a trace of sadness, like laughter hadn't come easy in a long time. "You're good at this," she said finally, nodding toward the faucet. Her voice was steady again, controlled, but her fingers fidgeted with the rim of her coffee mug. "Better than most men I've hired." "That's not a high bar," I said, forcing a laugh. For a second, she almost smiled, but it didn't last. She turned, leaning her hip against the counter, staring at nothing in particular. "My ex used to promise he'd fix things around here," she murmured. "Promised a lot of things, actually." She stopped, as if realizing she'd said too much. I froze, wrench still in my hand. I wasn't supposed to hear that, But I wanted to. Something inside me tightened. Not pity, not exactly. More like the ache of realizing she wasn't untouchable after all. She had cracks, and for some reason she'd let me glimpse them. I swallowed. You deserve better than broken promises. Her eyes flicked to mine, startled, almost searching, then away. You don't know me well enough to say that. Maybe not. But I knew how she stirred her coffee absent-mindedly, even when it was already cold. I knew the faint freckle on her wrist, the way her blouse slipped just slightly at the collar when she leaned forward. I noticed too much, and it made me feel both guilty and alive in ways I didn't want to name. I packed up slower than I needed to, giving myself excuses to linger. Each second stretched, balanced on the edge of something unspoken. When I finally straightened, she was watching me again. This time she didn't look away. You don't have to rush off, you know? She said softly. My chest tightened. It wasn't just politeness. There was something underneath, something fragile and deliberate. I opened my mouth, closed it again. I should probably... Her hand touched my arm. Light, almost uncertain, but enough to stop me cold. Stay a little longer, she whispered. It's too quiet here when I'm alone. Her fingers lingered just a moment too long before she pulled back, as if she'd surprised herself. I should have left right then. But the truth was, I wasn't sure I wanted to. They're pulled closer to the edge. I stayed. Of course I stayed. I told myself it was nothing, just keeping her company, just being polite. But the truth was, I didn't want to walk out of that kitchen and lose whatever thread had just tied us together. She poured herself a fresh cup of coffee, then set another in front of me. Don't worry, I won't keep you long, she said, almost teasing. But her tone was softer than her words, like she wanted to believe them herself. We sat at the small table, sunlight catching the edges of the chipped ceramic mugs. I tried to focus on anything but her, the way the clock ticked too loudly, the way the faucet I just fixed dripped once, then fell silent again. But my eyes betrayed me, kept finding her hands, her lips, the way she brushed her hair back when she laughed under her breath. You've grown up, she said suddenly. Not casual, not light, almost like an observation she hadn't meant to say out loud. My throat tightened. You mean since you were the boy running around at your mother's barbecues, she finished for me. Her smile was faint, wistful. I still see that sometimes. But now you're... She stopped, her fingers tracing the rim of her mug. Different. The word hung there. I wasn't sure if she realized how it sounded. But I did. My chest burned with words I shouldn't say, and I had to grip the mug just to keep my hands from shaking. The silence that followed was too much. I forced myself to stand, muttering, I should probably get going. But when I turned, my hand brushed hers on the table. Not a full touch, just the back of my fingers grazing her skin. Enough to feel how warm she was, how close. Her eyes met mine, startled, but she didn't move. Neither did I. And then the knock. Both of us jumped. Sharp, sudden, breaking whatever had been about to happen. She stood quickly, her chair scraping back. Hold on, she called, smoothing her blouse with trembling fingers before hurrying to the door. I stayed frozen, heart racing, trying to collect myself. It was just a delivery. A box left at the doorstep. She thanked the driver too quickly and shut the door, leaning against it for a second before turning back. Her eyes found me, and something passed between us. Relief, fear, maybe even regret. I'm sorry, she said, almost breathless. I didn't mean to. You don't have to apologize. I cut in. Too fast, too raw. She blinked, studying me. The air felt heavier now, like the knock had only deepened what we were both trying to fight. She stepped closer again, slower this time, as if testing herself. I know I shouldn't ask this, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. But, do you ever feel like something's happened for a reason? My chest ached. I wanted to tell her yes. I wanted to admit it. Instead, I bit the inside of my cheek, staring down at her hand resting inches from mine on the table. If I reached out even once, there'd be no pretending it meant nothing. Silence heavy enough to choke on. The delivery box sat unopened by the door, but neither of us cared. We stayed by the table, 2 mugs cooling between us, silence stretching tighter and tighter until it felt like the room itself might split apart. She was the first to speak. This isn't fair to you." Her voice cracked at the edges, and for the first time, I saw more than composure. I saw the weight she carried, the way her shoulders tensed as if bracing for a blow. I swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" Her eyes flicked to mine, then away. "You're young. You don't know what you want yet. And She stopped, pressing her lips together. "I can't be what you're looking for." The words should have pushed me back, but instead they only drew me closer. Because they weren't rejection, not really. They were fear dressed as logic. I leaned forward, my voice low. "You don't know what I'm looking for." That made her freeze. She looked at me then, really looked, and for a heartbeat neither of us breathed. I should have stopped, but something in me cracked open, too raw to hold in. "When you said I was the only one who makes you laugh." My throat tightened. "You don't know what that did to me." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She just stared, chest rising and falling too quickly, fingers tightening around the edge of the table. "Say something," I whispered. She shook her head, almost helpless. "I shouldn't feel this. But you do." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Her hand trembled slightly, and I thought for a second she might reach for me. Instead, she pressed it flat against the table, as if holding herself down. "You don't understand what this would mean. The things people would say. Your mother—" "My mother doesn't know me the way you do," I said, sharper than I meant to. "Nobody does." The air between us vibrated with everything unspoken. I could see it in her eyes, the war between guilt and wanting. And God help me, I wanted her to lose. I pushed my chair back without thinking, the scrape loud in the silence. I was close enough now that I could feel her breath, see the way her lips trembled like she wanted to form words but couldn't. "I can't," she whispered, but it didn't sound like conviction. It sounded like a plea. She no longer believed herself. My chest ached. I wanted to tell her I'd wait, that I didn't care what anyone thought, that this pull between us wasn't going away. Instead, I just looked at her, helpless, as everything built to a point neither of us could name. Her eyes glistened, her hand curling slowly into a fist on the table. And then silence. A silence so loaded it was louder than any confession. Her gaze locked with mine, unblinking, and she asked the question that undid me. "What happens if we stop pretending?" Her question, "What happens if we stop pretending?" still echoed when her phone buzzed against the counter. The sound jolted us both. She reached for it quickly, almost grateful for the interruption. But the look that crossed her face when she saw the screen made my stomach clench. "It's your mom," she said quietly. My chest tightened. "She's calling you?" She nodded, setting the phone down without answering. It kept buzzing, the name glowing across the screen, filling the kitchen with a tension neither of us knew how to cut. When it finally stopped, she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath. "She's been checking on me a lot lately, after the divorce." The word hit harder than I expected. Divorce. I hadn't known. She noticed my surprise and gave a short, humorless laugh. "What, your mom didn't tell you? That's unusual. She tells everyone everything." I tried to process it. The sadness tucked behind her smile, the exhaustion I'd only half noticed before. It shifted something in me, made the attraction I felt sting deeper. This wasn't just dangerous. It was fragile. "I didn't know," I admitted softly. Her eyes lingered on me, searching, maybe wondering if I pitied her. But that wasn't it. If anything, knowing the truth only pulled me closer. 3 months, she said, almost to herself. 3 months since he left. And still, every time the phone rings, I brace for his voice. "Isn't that pathetic?" "It's not," I said quickly. Too quickly. She shook her head. "You don't have to say that." "I'm not just saying it," I pressed. "You think you're the only one who's—" I stopped, biting down on the words. Her brow furrowed. "Who's what?" I hesitated. Then it slipped out anyway. Who's lonely? The word cracked something open between us. For once, she didn't look away. She just stared, eyes soft, lips parted like she was trying to decide if I'd gone too far, or if she had. Before either of us could say more, her phone buzzed again. Same name, my mom. She silenced it quickly this time, but the damage was done. We both knew what it meant. This wasn't happening in a vacuum. Other people, other ties were already pressing at the edges. She rubbed her forehead with one hand, suddenly looking older, tired. She can't know, she whispered. I swallowed hard. There's nothing to know. But even as I said it, the words felt like a lie. Because there was something. There had been since the faucet, since the way her laugh lingered in my head. Her gaze flicked back to mine, sharp, searching. You don't believe that, do you? I didn't answer. Couldn't. The silence pressed down heavier than before, broken only by the low hum of the fridge, the faint tick of the wall clock. Then, almost against her will, she asked, "What if she already suspects?" My stomach dropped. The thought of my mom seeing through me, through us, felt like being caught before we'd even done anything. And yet, in the flicker of her eyes, I saw the same thought I had. Maybe it was already too late to hide. Her question, what if she already suspects, hung in the air like a trap neither of us could escape. I should have lied, brushed it off, told her there was nothing to worry about. But my throat felt locked, and the silence gave me away. She noticed. Her expression softened, then crumpled, as though she'd been holding her composure like glass and it finally cracked in her hands. "This is wrong," she whispered. But her voice shook, her fingers gripping the edge of the table as if the wood itself was the only thing keeping her steady. I pushed forward before I lost the nerve. "Then tell me to leave. Tell me you don't feel it too." Her eyes met mine, wide, almost pleading, and she didn't say it. Instead, she let out a ragged breath. "You don't understand what you're asking." "I do," I said, too fast, too certain. "I know it's messy. I know it's not supposed to happen, but I can't." My voice broke, and I pressed a hand against my chest like I could hold the words in. "I can't keep pretending you're just my mom's friend." The honesty stunned even me. Once it was out, there was no pulling it back. She closed her eyes, pained, like my words both hurt and healed her. "You think this is simple, but it's not. If anyone knew—" "I don't care who knows," I cut in. My voice cracked. "I only care about you." The kitchen was too quiet. The only sound was her sharp inhale, her breath catching like she'd been holding it for months. And then she moved. Not much, not a grand gesture. Just her hand, trembling as it slid across the table, searching for mine. When her fingers brushed my skin, I froze. But I didn't pull back. Her hand settled over mine, warm and tentative. And that tiny touch carried more weight than anything I'd ever felt. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might shake the table. Her eyes were wet when she looked at me. "You'll hate me for this one day." I shook my head. "I couldn't." "You will," she whispered. "Because I should have been stronger." My chest ached. "Or maybe," I said softly, we finally stopped lying to ourselves. For a long moment, we just sat there, hands pressed together, silence stretching heavy and raw. I could see her fighting herself, every muscle in her jaw tight, her lips trembling as if words hovered there but refused to fall. And then, finally, she whispered what I'd been aching to hear. "I don't want you to go." The words shattered the last wall between us. I stood, and she did too, almost instinctively, like we were being pulled together by something older than choice. Her breath brushed against my cheek, her hand tightening over mine. We hovered there, one last heartbeat of hesitation between us. And then silence. A silence so loaded it felt like the world was waiting. The silence between us didn't last. Her hand squeezed mine, hesitant but real. And in that single touch all the tension of the past days, the guilt, the secrecy, the hesitation, finally broke. I stepped closer, my other hand brushing her cheek, and for once she didn't pull away. She leaned into it, eyes closing, as if she'd been waiting for this moment as long as I had. When our lips met, it wasn't sudden or reckless. It was slow, trembling, almost disbelieving. A kiss that carried the weight of everything unspoken. Her loneliness, my longing, the ache of pretending we hadn't been orbiting each other all along. When we parted, she pressed her forehead against mine. "We can't undo this," she whispered. "I don't want to," I answered. And that was the truth. Whatever line we had crossed, I knew I wouldn't go back. Not now. Not after knowing she wanted me to. The rest of the afternoon blurred. We didn't make promises we couldn't keep. We didn't plan out the future. Instead, we sat together at her kitchen table, hands still touching, the sun lowering through the window as the world outside carried on, unaware. For the first time, the quiet between us wasn't heavy. It was safe. Later, when I left, she walked me to the door. She hesitated before opening it, searching my face like she was memorizing it. "I don't know where this goes," she admitted softly. "But I know I don't want to lose what we have now." I nodded, a lump rising in my throat. "Then we won't." It wasn't a promise carved in stone, but it was enough. Enough for me to walk away that evening knowing something in both of us had changed forever. Looking back now, I realize it wasn't about the kiss, or even the danger of it all. It was about being seen. She saw me not as a boy, not as her friend's son, but as someone who could matter. And I saw her, not as untouchable, not as a figure on the periphery of my life, but as a woman with cracks and needs and laughter that sounded like hope. We began in silence, in stolen glances and unsaid words. We ended with honesty, raw, fragile, but ours. And maybe that's the real truth. Love doesn't always arrive in the right way, or at the right time. Sometimes it shows up in the spaces you least expect, asking you to risk everything just to feel alive. I took that risk. So did she. And whatever comes next, neither of us will ever be the same.